So Speedsters, even though Icicle has returned in The Flash Season 5 Episode 19 titled Snowpack, we get a whole bunch of Eobard Thawne and Nora, and the, I guess you would say, debut of the negative Speedforce, even though technically it's kind of been there the whole time, but they finally spoke about it. So let's break this episode down. What is up, Speedsters? Welcome to a brand new Flash Season 5 Episode 19 breakdown of the episode Snowpack. So this episode, I really enjoyed it for multiple different reasons. I feel like I enjoyed, probably like a lot of people, I could be wrong here, I enjoyed the Nora, Thawne, Barry, Iris drama more than the Snowpack stuff. Don't get me wrong though, a lot of cool stuff happened with Caitlyn and her family. I don't know, we'll talk about that when it comes to that, but regardless guys, I want to dive straight into this review because I have so much to say about it, a lot of exciting things to talk about and where this could go in the last few episodes of The Flash. So subscribe if you're brand new for more Flash content just like this. Like the video if you do go on to enjoy it, and of course guys, if you want to talk to me a little bit more directly about The Flash and any other comic book shows or anything you're interested in, join my Discord server. The links are in the description down below, or the link to the server, but let's dive straight into that first scene with Barry and Iris arguing about, you know, Barry taking Nora to the future. So I thought this scene, guys, was fantastic. Seriously, I don't know if there's actually, I would put this on the shelf of most dramatic scenes in The Flash. Now you may be thinking, what the hell, a scene between Barry and Iris, like just shouting each other, one of the most dramatic scenes? This was like one of the most well acted scenes I feel like I remember to date with this show. I love stuff like this. Obviously we all love a little bit of drama, but when it comes to, I don't know, stuff like this, I feel like you don't see it enough on The Flash, and I guess that's partly because I guess people don't want it to be a proper, like, brooding, moody drama show, and that's not what it's about. Come on, this is The Flash, about Barry Allen. But when you get moments like this sparingly, I would say up to 3 times a season, when it's this kind of, like, you know, shouting out your throat kind of stuff, it's kind of special, and it really was, you know, your eyes were glued to the screen. So obviously Iris is still thinking that Barry is making decisions based on his emotions, and she even gave some examples like Flashpoint, going into the Speedforce, but you know, I get what she's saying there. I'm not going to go on about this for too long, but I get both sides of the argument here. They're both, like, obviously wrong, and they came to a conclusion by the end of the episode, but fair enough, Flashpoint, he made a decision based on his emotions. But come on, Iris, he had to enter the goddamn Speedforce to save the world. Like, stop going on about that. Like, she really used it as an example, like, oh yeah, you know, what about going into the Speedforce and leaving me, Barry? How about that? It's as Barry said. Do you really think I had a choice when making that decision? I know this is bringing up an age-old debate of the end of Season 3, or was it like the beginning of Season 4 when she had to go at... Yeah, I think all the reviewers, including myself, were talking about this, and the fans as well, and I hope I'm not triggering any West Allen fans here, but seriously, Barry had to do that. I don't get why she brought that up. It's kind of like the Sherlock thing, how everyone's having a go at Sherlock. Why? Why are you writing this, writers? It doesn't make any sense. I love the line when Barry said, maybe if you killed your mother in front of you, you would feel differently. But, you know, Iris has a point in the terms of how, because there was only one person who could teach Nora how to use her speed and go back in time. So I was like, okay, fair point. There was only one person who could do that. But as Barry mentioned in the previous episode, like, you know, he gets that. He understands that up until the point of where the mid-season finale happened, and he told Nora about how Thawne killed her grandmother and his mother, and he didn't get it up till after that. Why did she keep going back after that? That's the issue. And then of course the episode panned to Nora with Thawne. We knew this was coming from the trailer, so she points out to Thawne, and this was a big thing in this episode, the I don't want to say the introduction of the negative Speedforce, because that's what Eobard Thawne's been tapping into this whole time, but it's been something fans have been wanting to be discussed on the show for the longest time, and this was brought about by Nora saying, like, how do you run through the Speedforce hundreds of times without Team Flash or Barry or any other species for that matter not noticing? And he basically explains, before also saying that he used to idolize Barry, or Nora's father, and wanted to be just like him, essentially the reverse Flash's origin story here, but his fate was to be the reverse in every way. So not literally just the Speedforce, but the reverse of that too, the negative Speedforce. So instead of tapping into that, he created his own, in his own words, his own Speedforce. And he says, I have to warn you, Nora, this is such a great line, it's a little bit negative. And I was just like, oh, no, like that's just such a cool, that was such a cool scene. And then obviously this, begun the kind of thing in this episode where Nora wanted to run back, being 2019 again, but didn't want to get detected, so she was adopting or trying to tap into the negative Speedforce. But on the other side of the things in the episode, guys, Team Flash found out that Mini Grace has been taken by Griselda, or most likely Griselda. But we also had Icicle entering Tannhauser Industries, and I believe he took this device called the Prototype Cryo Atomizer. I could be wrong there. But Caitlyn was obviously arguing about her mother in between all of this. They basically broke it down to the fact that Icicle wants to start this kind of new ice age within Central City, but he also wants an ice family. And luckily, when Icicle just came in, Sherlock was, deciding or like fumbling about leaving Team Flash, and I don't blame him since everyone's being too hard on him. Really don't get why, so he's just like, F this, I'm out of here. But he bridged in to save them in time. And, the whole storyline with Caitlyn and stuff this episode, I did enjoy it, but it wasn't the highlight of the episode for me. It was just like, wrapping up the Icicle storyline, reconciling with her mother and their relationship. We did get some family therapy time with Caitlyn and her mum when they were locked up. And as I said, Icicle wants a nice family, so he tries to make Caitlyn's mother one, which we'll talk about a little bit later with that scene at the end. But other than that, guys, this storyline wrapped up with Killer Frost and Icicle doing the ice bridge flying, which is flipping awesome. I thought the CGI was completely on par for an episode like this. It was really cool, and the scenery of where they like kind of had that final face-off where the bridge, just spiraled up to like a massive point in the air, and you just saw all of this scenery around them. It was such a cool stage to set. But this kind of ended out of nowhere. Now, this is, I guess, where I kind of found stuff a bit hard to digest. Like Thomas Snow, I thought it was nice. Icicle tried to kill Caitlyn, and Thomas Snow just cured himself through finding the strength to just stop him from doing that. But when Griselda did arrive and we had Killer Frost versus Griselda, this was cool choreography with, her ice daggers, and then we obviously had Griselda with her dagger. The only thing I was a bit iffy on in this fight scene is that Grace was just punching Caitlyn a few times. I guess you could put this down to just taunting your enemy in between a fight, but she was like holding her dagger and just hitting her with the blunt end, but I just thought you could just flip it around and just shank Caitlyn a few times. Obviously, I don't want that, but I'm just saying when you add parts into choreography, whether it's in movies or TV shows, where there's obviously one stunt guy or maybe even the main guy deliberately not doing killing the person when they want to kill the person, and you can easily see the gap for it, it's a bit off-putting. It kind of takes you out of the fight itself. I don't know, it just kind of takes you out the moment, as I said, unless you believe that they are just so full of themselves and overconfident that they're punching them a few times before they then decide to stab them. But either way, guys, Griselda gets away with the core thing, the atomizer or whatever it was, which gets teased later with Mini Griselda. Now, good death or not with Icicle, because obviously he jumps in the way to save Caitlyn from dying from Griselda just before she gets away. This is what I found a bit like, was it a good death? Like, they just got their dad back who somehow cured himself. Like, you could, but this is what I mean. I didn't necessarily believe it. I didn't like the death. Let me put it that way. They get him back, jumps in the way. Oh, Thomas Snow is dead. I just thought it was a bit too cliche of like a network show. It's like, oh, this just happened. Oh, okay, that happened. I think the only thing that kind of makes this moment up for me for it not being a cheesy death, for example, is that I don't believe that he cured himself. When he stopped Icicle from like killing Caitlyn on that ice bridge. So I'm just saying in my head, oh, if he didn't die, he wouldn't have remained Thomas Snow for the whole time. Icicle probably would have come back one way or another. So him dying, if anything, is probably a good thing, because if they just assumed he was okay, he would probably become Icicle again. And if he wouldn't have, then how the hell does just Thomas Snow find the strength to just rewrite his genetic mutation that turned him into Icicle just through the will to save his daughter? And of course you could say, oh, but it's the strength of the will to save your daughter, Boba. Okay, but really, I don't know if that's enough. So that's why I found this end bit a bit lackluster for me. I don't know if you felt the same. And then, of course, at the end of the Caitlyn and mother storyline, there, as I said, they reconcile. They do the test to see if she is one of the Ice family. It shows she wasn't. And then they walk out of the room, and then lo and behold, in the freaking box of the blood test or whatever it was, or the test to see if she was a member of the Ice snowpack or whatever, it went white, which indicates that she is. Just basically said saying, oh, we'll continue this story along one day, which I guess I'm kind of excited. Well, am I excited really? No, not really, not right now. I mean, are they setting up for a villainous return for a mother? Will Caitlyn Snow's mother's ice personality be villainous just like Icicle? Or will she be a little bit more like Killer Frost, where it's like, okay, maybe they just need to deal with her getting used to the new personality. But I hope they don't do another repeat of Icicle, because I just think that would be a bit cliche and boring and filler for a future episode, maybe in a future season like season 6. Now, in terms of Iris, this episode, of course, she went after her daughter. She just used the time sphere to just go to the future just like that. I guess it really is just as easy as that. I mean, it was cool that Ralph went with her as well. So going back to the whole negative Speedforce side of things, because this was where stuff got very interesting, Thorne was teaching Nora how to access the negative Speedforce. And from the lines that Thorne was saying, for example, getting her to embrace the pain, to become like a part of a negative force, very similar to him saying, oh, you're a part of something now, a part of the Speed Force, but it's just reversed into the negative force. So yeah, that's when Nora opens something up like a red barrier, but it doesn't quite open and it kind of fails, like a failed breach. And that's because, as Thorne explains it, that she's too kind of good, she's too light like her father, whereas for Thorne, it works just a-okay for him because he basically runs on hate fuel. So as a result of that discussion between Nora and Thorne, she gets very kind of pissed off. I felt like this kind of got a bit out of hand, but I guess maybe you could argue she was tapping into that negative Speed Force, so it maybe fueled a bit of her rage, just because it seemed a bit eccentric. And this is why I'm a bit concerned about the promo for the next episode. I get that the negative Speed Force is a thing, and I kind of almost hope from the promo of the next episode they make it so it is almost like a brainwashing thing. Once you tap into it, like you are kind of dark and evil and like eccentrically bad because you've tapped into it, because otherwise it just seems like, oh, like I'm bad now and I'm gonna be like a bad person, and it's very cliche, cheesy bad from what I'm seeing from the next week's promo, and I'll break that down in my promo breakdown. But from what we saw from Nora in this episode, it seemed a bit more believable. You know, she starts running, tapping into the negative Speed Force, and then she starts running back, and I found it really cool how they added in like in the negative Speed Force stream as she was traveling back through time to get to 2019, that she only sees bad things, like for example her friend Leah's death in the recent episode Godspeed. She starts seeing all the bad checkpointed things that have happened this season so far to Nora, and it just fuels that negative Speed Force rage in Nora that she's just traveling back in time. Now the final lines between Thorne and Iris kind of tie up from what Iris and Barry were talking about at the end of the episode. So he basically almost implores Iris to find Nora because she needs her family. So this really does make Thorne sound like a nice guy. And as I said, this is what Iris said to Barry. Like they talked towards the end of the episode. He says he was wrong and maybe shouldn't have made that decision to put Nora into the future without Iris's input. But she said the way Thorne looks, you know, when he talks about Nora, there's only other one person who shares that look, and that is Barry. And this is something I've been saying the whole season. What if Reverse Flash has, you know, sure, he might be manipulating her, sure, he might have a plan to get out and do all of that good stuff, or bad stuff, should I say, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't become sentimentally attached to Nora, just like how he did to his arch enemy, the Flash, after spending 15 years training him. He hated it, but he couldn't help but like him. And that's kind of like a trippy, really cool dynamic that they've added into the show with Barry and Thorne. And now they've basically done it with Nora, because he's basically become, I guess, kind of close to this girl because she had nobody else but him, and I guess he felt some kind of fatherly figure role in all of that. So Thorne actually cares about Nora. In my books, predictable, but I'm not saying that this is gonna make Thorne automatically a good guy. He might care about her, but he still might do a few bad things in the final episode or the final episodes of this season. And then of course, guys, we got Nora running back through that time stream that we saw earlier, or the Speed Force stream, and she runs back with mother freaking, I was about to say Reverse Flash eyes because he's the only one we've seen with the negative Speed Force kind of so far, but yeah, she ran back with negative Speed Force eyes. So yeah, she's run back to present day. I guess it's just some random street. And then at the after credit scene, we got a mini Grace scene with Griselda, with her with that atomizer, whatever device that she's got. So God knows what Griselda is planning. I'd love to hear your comments down in the comments below. But more importantly, guys, are you happy with this episode? Did you enjoy it? I thought that the negative Speed Force stuff with Nora was absolutely fascinating. The acting between Candace Patton and Barry in this episode, especially that beginning scene, was some of the best acting I've seen on the show in a long time, and I do like the drama, even though a few of the lines didn't make sense, as I kind of pointed out. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more exploration of the negative Speed Force, but as I said, from the looks of the next week's episode, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it just kind of does look like typical cheesy CW, like, you know, like Smallville Red Kryptonite, even though that was a cool thing, but Clark kind of went cheesy bad. It kind of reminds me of that. So I hope it comes off a bit better than what like the trailer depicts, but I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. But it is believable, I guess. She's been corrupted by the negative freaking Speedforce, and I guess that's the explanation behind cheesy, eccentric, bad Nora. Like this video if you did enjoy it, subscribe for more Flash content just like this, guys. As always, if you want to talk to me about the Flash and other shows, or whatever you want to talk to me about, join my Discord server. The link is in the description, and I'll hopefully see you there. Other links to my Patreon and Twitter and everything like that are down there as well. So thank you so much for watching, Speedsters. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.